QPR head to 18th place Blackburn Rovers on Wednesday night, so I caught up with 4,000 Holes podcast host Ian Herbert to get his thoughts on his side's season so far, the Rovers players to watch out for, and his score prediction. If you're new here, I'm Connor aka Hoopsa. I talk all things Queen's Park Rangers, so make sure you hit like and subscribe if you enjoy this latest match preview, and let's dive straight in. Hi Ian, welcome back to Hoopsa for another Blackburn Rovers versus Queen's Park Rangers match preview. How are you doing first of all?
Well, a lot better after last Friday's result, I have to say. We had a pretty chastening home defeat in our 150th anniversary celebration match against Derby County, where John Eustace came back and mugged us, as I think could have been predicted. So I think mood was a bit low, and then we had the international break. So there was a bit of trepidation going into the local derby on Friday. But I have to say, we played very well and deserved the win. So yeah, the mood is lifted. So just QPR, just come and leave us alone on Wednesday. We're feeling quite good now. Don't duff us up. That'd be quite nice.
I mean, Blackburn are heading into this one with a bit of momentum. I know there was the loss just before the international break, but it's 4 wins from the last 5 after losing 4 of the previous 5. So how would you describe the season so far overall?
Ridiculous. I think it's fair to say. I think it's defied logic in many respects. I think we probably need to go back to the end of last season just to set the context, where for 20 minutes on the last day of last season, we were in the playoff positions. So I think the hope was in the summer that we'd build on that fairly strong and stable platform, if I dare use that phrase, and really, really have a go at the playoffs this year. We then did something which, if a Formula One team was to do it, it would be the equivalent of sort of saying, well, from now on, we're only going to buy our spare parts from Halfords. And we're just going to go down the driving centre and we'll drag some 17-year-old kid off the street who's just passed his driving test. And I'm sure it'll be okay. And so for the first few weeks of the season, we looked what we were, which was a bunch of strangers being thrown together, not able to quite understand. Having said that, though, we still managed to go to Hull and win 3-0. And now that result looks ever so good, I have to say, in the context of how they've done subsequently. So it's kind of just defied logic. We're still, even though we have had this good run, we're still only 6 points clear of relegation. But then if you look at the league table, we're only 6 points off the playoffs. This is a bonkers division, and all things are possible as we stand here at the moment. So I think in summary, a lot better than I feared, but there are still some concerns there because our squad is incredibly threadbare, and the injuries have kicked in. And it really is difficult to see how we're going to get through November and December on the squad size that we've got, unless some players make some miraculous recoveries. But those that were selected last Friday did a terrific job. So who knows what will happen on Wednesday, frankly. Hard to call.
Yeah. I mean, what's the mood around Valerian Ishmael? I mean, he arrived, back in February following John Eustace's departure. There was 6 games without a win when he first joined, and then Rovers went 6 unbeaten to round off last season. So obviously some optimism going into the summer. How do the fans feel about Ishmael nearly 10 months on from his arrival?
I think it's fair to say the vast majority realise that he's up against it in as much as, well, I suppose you could equally argue that he's complicit. He signed up for the project. I think he knew what he was signing up for. I don't think he came expecting, having received promises, well, we'll invest 50 million in the summer and we're going to give it a right good go. I think he came knowing that the mission at Rovers was to reduce costs, because that seems to have been the prime objective of the summer, is get the high earners off the wage bill, replace them with cheaper ones, ideally some rough diamonds that we can polish and sell them on. I've just got a horrible feeling someone in the higher echelons of Blackburn Rovers Football Club thinks that you can unearth an Adam Wharton every single summer, and that's just not true. He's a once-in-a-generation talent, so it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. So having said all of that, the context that Blackburn Rovers is that the ownership seems to have decided they no longer want to invest, and the club has been set the task of washing its face financially. So what can any manager do in those circumstances? It's a tough gig. Just to have, as I sort of say, 20 new players at the first day of pre-season training. So pick the bones out of that, Val. Yeah. And to be fair, I think largely he's done a decent job. There have been the odd game, the odd occasion where he's made some substitutions and he thought, I'm sorry, I'm really, really struggling here. We're a goal behind. You've put another defender on. What on earth's going on? So there's been instances like that. But I think it would be a very harsh judge that sort of said you should have been doing better. I think if there's any criticism to be levelled, it's at the sort of inconsistent way that the club's owners are running the club through their representatives in the UK in particular, because there's no real underlying logic as to why they continue to own us if they don't want to invest. I can understand them not wanting to invest, so why carrying on owning us? And it just feels all a bit perverse. So in the context of that, he's probably doing okay. In fairness, I'm not sure that there's many others that we could have attracted on the salary that we're prepared to pay that could potentially have done a better job.
Which of those 20 odd players have stood out for Rovers so far this season? Who should Rangers fans be worried about on Wednesday night?
Well, the transfer policy in the summer was a bit hit and miss, and I think the standout signing so far has definitely been Ryan Alabioso, who's the right back that's replaced Callum Britton. He seems really, really good, to the extent that we are very worried that he won't be with us come February the 1st. So if he is the first of these rough diamonds that we polished, the chances are he could be off. He's impressed quite a lot, I have to say. He's settled in very nicely. I think up front, Ida Goodjohnson's son, has taken a little while to find his feet, but all of a sudden he scored 4 goals and he played really well on Friday, ghosted into the back post and nod one in from a very tight angle. And you're sort of thinking, oh, well, yeah, maybe there is something there after all. Him and Yuki Ashi seem to be building up more of an understanding. So I think, the more games that they play together, the more they understand the nature of each other's play. I think that can only bode well. And the other signing that's blown hot and cold is another Japanese signing, is Morishita, who came in, looked really good, then sort of like tailed off and started to look really quite ordinary, and then I started to look really quite good again. So, who knows what's going on in these players' lives? They've come, he came from Poland, for instance. So as a Japanese lad, playing in Poland, comes to Blackburn with the best will in the world. That's got to be unsettling. It's quite a change, I think, from Japan to Blackburn, possibly less of a change from Poland to Blackburn. But having said that, some of the architecture in Poland, I think, beats that in the town centre. But he's definitely got potential. He's definitely an awkward customer. I think what's taken him time to get used to is the physicality of the Championship. He's not the most imposing physical character, but he's definitely got a terrific technique. So again, him and Yugi Ashi seem to have an understanding. And on Friday, you could see, right, there's a little few triangles there building. Well, that's not too bad. I think that those are probably the standout signings. There's 2 or 3 others who just haven't made their mark yet. And so the jury is very definitely out. But I think Alabioso is definitely the standout success. And Goodjohnson is winning the fans over as the weeks progress.
And on the flip side, where are the weaknesses in this Blackburn team? Where can QPR get at Rovers?
Well, we're racked by injuries at the moment. So Balázs Tos, the Hungarian international goalkeeper, had sort of like nailed down the number 1 spot. And I think he took some time to get used to the Championship last season. But this season, he looked really, really good. And in the home game against Southampton, he made 2 terrific saves and one-on-ones with Adam Armstrong. So there was a lot of Rovers fans thinking, at last, we've got that solid, consistent keeper that we've needed since Thomas Kaminski left. He got injured. Scott Wharton and Hayden Carter are 2 homegrown centre-backs with incredibly flaky injury records, both really good Championship players, but injury-prone to the point where you cannot rely on them. You couldn't expect to get more than 20, 25 games a season out of them. Scott Wharton got injured against Bristol City. Hayden Carter has been injured pretty much the whole of the season so far. And we sold Dom Hyam with like 4 hours of the transfer window left and didn't replace him. So that has left us effectively with centre-backs that have been thrown together. So Lewis Miller, who was signed in the summer from Hibs, probably as a right wing back, is being asked to play a right-sided centre-back in a 3. And we played Ryan Hedges, who is ostensibly our left winger, at left-sided centre-back against Derby County. Go figure. How did we lose that game? I can't think. In fairness to Ryan, the goals weren't his fault, but just him being asked to play that position was a bit nuts. So that spine, goalkeeper, 2 central defenders in front of him, and then Todd Cantwell, who I have to say, he's not someone that I would rely on, to dig you out of a relegation battle. But he's by far and away technically our best player. he's been injured with a knock for several weeks. So you've lost your goalkeeper, your centre backs, your prime midfield creator, and then we had Andre Goodjohnson. Wish we had Ida Goodjohnson in the band. Andre Goodjohnson struggling to find his feet, and so that whole spine right down the middle of the team looked a bit flaky. But they've started to get themselves together. But it's that defence that I think causes some concern, because we've got two left backs that Val won't pick. So he prefers to play Ryan Hedges as a left wing back when he's not picking him as a left-sided centre back. And on Friday we brought in a lad that's come through the academy that was out on loan at Chorley like 3 weeks ago to make his debut. And actually he was very accomplished. That's George Pratt. I imagine that he will play on Wednesday. Left-sided centre back. He made a couple of really, really good blocks against Preston. Didn't look totally out of his depth. Positionally caught out once or twice, but he did the simple things and did them effectively. So he's got a chance to stake a claim for a first-team place, really. So that, if you're going to have a go, I think it's because we play a back three without a full-back on the left side. I think there's some gaps in behind there, and I think the centre backs, we've not been able to name consistent partnership throughout the whole of the season. So there's an element of learning, and then you put a goalkeeper behind them who's been dropped and come back in because of injury, and it's a recipe potentially for disaster. But Preston didn't exploit it on Friday, so hopefully we can figure something out between now and Wednesday to sort it out for Wednesday as well.
Well, Ian, it's always a pleasure to have you on the channel. Let's round off with your score prediction for Wednesday night.
Well, I've got to go with Rovers. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, so let's go for the standard tried and tested 2-1.
Perfect. Ian, thank you so much for joining me. All the best for the rest of the season, and enjoy the game on Wednesday night.
Thanks very much. Pleasure as always.
Huge thanks to Ian once again for joining me for this preview. Make sure you give him a follow and check out the 4,000 Holes podcast in the description down below. So, really a nice trip for Rangers this, especially on a midweek cold and rainy night, and that's seemingly enhanced even more by our visit arriving in the midst of their best patch of form this season, despite that loss to Derby just before the break. With QPR's second half performance on Saturday though, I'd like to think our players will be itching to get out there again and show even more of what they can do in attack. The question for Stefan will be how he navigates 2 long away trips in a row, having played on Saturday straight after an international break, whilst retaining that consistency us fans are now hoping for at this point of the season. At least half of the side that played Hull over the weekend had just returned from international duty, and so that will certainly be in his considerations, while Jake Clarke-Salter will presumably not be risked with another start, having played his first hour of senior football since January. You'd imagine that depending on Stefan's view of their late cameos, any of Kieran Morgan, Koki Saito or Ryan Colley could therefore be in contention here, and given Roman Burrell's red-hot scoring form, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rangers opt to rest Kone on this occasion. There's also Kwame Poku and Isaac Hayden to both come into the squad, but the question is, whose place do they take? It's a very nice problem to have. I just hope we get the selection right and we give this one a really good go. Right, so let's round off with a score prediction as usual. It takes a brave man to predict an Ars win at Blackburn, but Rovers themselves have only taken 3 points at Ewood Park just once this season, and they've also only drawn once both home and away. So I'm going to play devil's advocate to Ian. I'm going 2-1 to the Super Hoops. How about you? What's your score prediction? How do you think this will play out? And what would your starting lineup be? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you smash like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this match preview. And hopefully I'll see you for the match reaction. Come on, you Ars.